podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.
Blueberry.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
The Big G, Tokyo Town, StompDown.
We are running through 31 days of Godzilla films on the Big G, Tokyo Town StompDown, brought to you by Subject Cinema, eCinemaOne.com, and our Patreon show, Kaiju Corner. I'm TC Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
This was all Kim's idea.
Yep.
And we're doing all kinds of movies, and she's the expert on these.
Oh,
as good as she can be. She's a fan expert.
I'm a fan.
As opposed to a
devotee.
Scholarly one. And we have been talking about Godzilla for over a week now.
Yep.
And then we are up to the 10th movie.
Yes, this is the 10th movie in the Godzilla series, also in the Showa era of Godzilla films. All Monsters Attack, which was released in Japan as... I'm not even going to try and say the Japanese wording of this, but it's translated to Godzilla, Minya, and Gabara, All Monsters Attack. When this movie was brought to America, it was retitled Godzilla's Revenge. I have no freaking idea why. That title
For the same
stinks.
reason we call Godzilla Raids Again,
Gigantus the Fire Monster, because we're idiots.
Came out in Japan in 1969 and in America in 1971.
Mm-hmm.
This is more of a fantasy than anything.
It is.
And I have to admit, this is not my favorite movie. I'd not seen it all the way through until Sven ran it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Sven Gulli had it on, and I'd not seen it all the way through. And I'm just like, well, okay. For one thing, it features my least favorite Godzilla monster, which is Minya. And I'm just like, okay.
I thought your least favorite Godzilla monster was Zilla.
Well, Zilla's not really... Zilla only became part of that universe just for Final Wars.
Yeah.
Other than that, he was
just
separate.
So he could get curb stomped.
Yeah. So we won't talk about Zilla.
Also known as Fluffy the Giant Iguana.
Or Fraudzilla.
Or Fraudzilla.
The giant iguana. I just... I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it hits too close to home.
You know, there's that. I gotta be really honest with you. This film worked. Now, I try not to be. I can be. I admit that. When it comes to the sub versus dub argument, sometimes I can be annoying about that. I admit it.
We've both become to the point where we'd rather see subtitles than dubs if we can.
Yes. I made a big deal when Kung Fu Hustle came out. I was like, I want to see this subtitled, and I'm not taking it any other way. So that's...
It was good. We went to the Coolidge Corner for the very first time.
Yeah.
Saw it with two other ladies in the audience.
And that's it.
And it was fun.
It was
a lot of fun.
The reason that I don't like... Well, no, I tell a lie. The reason that I don't like older dubbed films is because usually you can tell they're dubbed by the same 5 people.
And you get, look, now listen,
on
everything. And for those of you who don't know what that is, see Subject Cinema for ad nauseum over the years.
Yeah. And also, they tend to, give obviously Asian characters Western names, which is annoying, and also just sometimes the voices just don't fit.
Like Beaver Falls?
Yep. And before anybody asks, no, that is not from an adult film.
It's a Prince of Space reference.
Yes, one of the best Misties they ever did on
yes,
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
It's one of the funniest things they've ever done.
I will be very, very honest when it comes to dubbing more recent films like Hero. I've seen the dubbed version of Hero, and I'm like, damn.
Well, now they take it seriously.
Now they take it
Back
seriously.
then they didn't.
Yeah.
Although I got to admit, I I'd rather watch the subtitled. I've seen the dubbed one too.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch the subtitled one.
Now where I'm going with this, and I do have a point, is that when I remember seeing this film when I was a little girl watching Creature Double Feature, and I saw the dubbed version. I was also 8 and didn't know any better.
Right.
I've also seen this subtitle because Starz was running it. And if you have a choice between the dubbed and the subbed, see the subtitled one.
Okay, I've never seen the subtitled one.
It makes a difference. I think it makes it definitely makes a difference on the voice of Minya, which might make Minya less annoying for you.
Could. I doubt it, but it could. I'd give it a try, though.
The thing is...
before we forget, if you haven't seen it yet, Starz... which is connected, has connected with the Criterion people to present a lot of the Godzilla films. They continue to run them off and on and will throughout the rest of this year. So if you want to take a look at them, and they're showing the subtitled versions of all of them. Yeah. Sponsored by the Criterion Collection, which has released a number of them on deluxe packages, including the original Gojira, which is just magnificent on a Criterion disc. So anyway, go ahead.
Directed by Ishiro Honda, All Monsters Attack is a very different sort of a Godzilla film in the fact that it mostly focuses on a young boy who is not only not afraid of Godzilla, but would rather go and live on Monster Island with Godzilla and Minya and all of the other monsters as opposed to the life that he's living in the human world. Ichiro Miki is a young boy. He lives in a part of he lives in Kawasaki in Japan. I'm not sure if Kawasaki is a prefecture or if it's a city.
It's a city, but it could be a prefecture too. I'm not sure.
It is a city in the Kanagawa prefecture in Japan. So this is an area that at the time when this film was made was, it's a very urban area and also quite polluted.
Very Los Angeles-y.
Yes, very Los Angeles-y. And it's very polluted. Japan had a serious problem with pollution, which we will get into in
the next movie.
Movie. Ichiro is, he's your average kid. He's like 7, 8 years old, somewhere in there. And his parents both work very hard, which is what the problem is. They both work very hard and they're, trying to provide a good life for their family, which is commendable. But the thing is, Ichiro he's a latchkey kid. Now that's something a lot of us can relate to.
And we hadn't really known that word to describe that situation until much later than this movie was made.
Yeah.
Like the early 80s.
But this was a phenomenon that really, I don't think this really started in Japan until the 60s, the idea that, both your parents are working, they're working while you're in school, you get home, they're not home yet. Sometimes you have to make your own dinner for yourself or yourself and your siblings, and the thing is, Ichiro's an only child, so he's lonesome. He's a lonely little kid. He's got a great imagination. He's a really nice little kid. But he's got some lonely issues. He's also got some bullying issues. Yeah. He comes home from school every day to the apartment he shares with his mom and dad alone. And, he has to, basically, feed himself and get himself all set up and everything like that. He does have a friend in the apartment building that watches him sometimes and plays with him too. A man named Shinpei, who is he makes toys. So he's obviously the kind of person you would want to hang around with your son because he's obviously got some imagination and stuff like that, and you'd think a toy maker would be friendly with kids. And in Shinpei's case, you'd be right. He seems like a pretty decent guy.
He's a bit out there, though.
He's a bit spacey, but most inventors are
very eccentric style.
He's an inventor, and
although not as eccentric as the guy that invented the Screecher in the earlier movies.
No, he's like Geppetto without the singing cricket and all that. Ichiro does have one friend. It's a little girl named Sachiko. And they walk home from school a lot, and when they walk home from school, Ichiro's often talking about monsters. He loves the monsters that apparently terrorize Japan on a relatively recent basis, but he thinks they're cool because he's a young boy. And, boys. Although it's not a boy thing, because I'm sorry, I always thought Godzilla was awesome. The thing is, Ichiro, besides all of the other things he's got going on in his life, unfortunately, he's also got another thing going on, and that's a bully. There's a boy at school named Sanko Gabara, who is never alone, for one thing. This kid's always surrounded by other kids that get to watch him be all big and tough, because most bullies are cowards and can't...
And most bullies have an entourage.
Yeah. Most bullies have an entourage because they don't feel like, what's the use of being a jerk if you don't have a bunch of little sycophants telling you how great you are.
Right.
So, Ichiro has to deal with that as well. So, when he goes to sleep at night and has dreams, he dreams about the idea of, some kids dream about going to Disney World, some kids want to go to the moon, whatever.
Hey, I'm going to sleep now. Where are you going? I'm going to Monster Island.
Mm-hmm. Well, we all have our dreams.
I guess.
And, he, in his dreams, he shows up on Monster Island after dreaming about being on a plane by himself, surrounded by adults. He's flying all alone, and the PA thing comes on. The steward, we are now approaching Monster Island, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? I'm like, damn, Delta went off their route, didn't they?
They have a tourist trap there, I'm sure. Monsters scream by, come up and do their little roar and pose for selfies. It's just what it is.
I just picture a t-shirt. My mom got eaten by Godzilla, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. Sorry. So, in his dream, he sees Godzilla, fighting, he sees him fighting 3 of the giant praying mantises, the Kamakuras, and also sees him fighting Ebera. So yes, this is footage from the earlier films. This is called recycling, children.
It's called a cheater movie is what it's called. But they did that a lot in that era.
Look, I'm sorry, if you were the suit actor...
Stock footage, it's considered stock footage.
If you're the suit actor, you don't want to have to suit up again and get thrown around for a scene that's 3 minutes long.
Especially when you're in that silly lobster costume.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That poor guy. The problem is one of the Kamakuras notices Ichiro and chases him, and he winds up falling into a cave and manages to keep from getting caught by another Kamakuras, because it must have been mating season before this kid showed up on the island, because this place is rotten with these things. They breed like rabbits, apparently. So Don't forget, in case you've missed it earlier, Kamakuras are giant praying mantises. Praying mantises, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, that apparently breed like rabbits. So he's in this cave, and all of a sudden this vine is being lowered down, obviously by somebody. Now he climbs up the vine, hoping there's not a Kamakuras on the other end going, oh please, tell me this worked. As it turns out, no. It's actually a vine that was sent down to him by Minya, who can talk to him in Japanese or English, depending on
which one you're watching, right?
It's a dream. What are you going to do?
Right.
It's like one of those dreams you have where everything's completely out there and insane, and everybody's just talking like, so how was your day, Phil? Oh, my day was fine, Bob. While there's like roller skating sheep going by or something like that. It's that kind of a thing. So.
Roller skating sheep, really?
Well, I was going to talk about some of the stuff I dream about, but I don't think anybody needs to hear that. Unless you want to hear about it privately, you can DM me if you want. Anyway, I might charge for that, actually.
Stop that. Anyway.
So, Ichiro and Minya talk and discuss things, and as it turns out, Minya has his own problems when it comes to a bully, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about the fact that Minya, even though Minya is I'm trying to think how to word this. Well, he's not a baby.
He's a child.
We're assuming he's the same age as Ichiro because it's his dream.
Right.
So, also in this film, Minya grows and shrinks. Right now he's Ichiro's size, a little bit taller. At certain points in the film, he grows to be larger, not Godzilla sized, but larger. So as it turns out, like I mentioned, he's got a bully issue on his little monster plate as well, in the fact that he's dealing with a monster called Gabara. Doesn't that sound familiar? That is this big, ugly, ogre-looking thing that makes this really unpleasant noise.
Oh, yeah, that never even occurred to me. Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. No, if you don't, it's...
But I'm sure they're not going, Gabara is a friend to children everywhere.
No!
Sorry.
I don't know
Trademark infringement. Anyway.
The wrong studio, for one thing.
I know, but that's what that reminds me of.
I don't know what they used for the noise to make for Gabara's roar. It hurt. I mean, my ears are really sensitive to stuff like that, and it's just really kind of gurgling, gargly, unpleasant. If you hear it, you know what I mean. It's just bleh.
Well, it can't be as bad as the dudes in Lord of the Rings. What were their names?
The Nazgul?
The Nazgul.
No, it's not that kind of sound. That's
She, every time we saw that film, she was literally cringing with her fingers in her ears.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
She has super sensitive hearing.
I do.
So.
My hearing is really, really sensitive like that. Really high-pitched noise really bothered me. So any scene with the Nazgul, I was like 2 steps away from being on the floor twitching.
Okay, let's set this up.
Ichiro, winds up being, he's woken up because, by Shinpei, who's come to wake him up to tell him that his mother is not going to be home when she's supposed to be. She has to work late. So this is obviously, it must be like the next day. That's why mom's not home. So
it might just been a nap he took.
Yeah, that's true. It's just, he was like, I wasn't going to sleep. He just lay down for a nap because he was waiting for his mom to come home. But now he's got the news that mom's working late again, so he's going to be stuck at home alone,
Yeah.
So he goes outside to play, but unfortunately, the other Gabara, the human Gabara, and his bullies are out and about. And so Ichiro goes off by himself and finds this factory, which has long been abandoned because that's where you want to send children to play.
Yep.
Crying out loud. So he's going through this factory and he finds a bunch of junk, which, little kids are fascinated with junk.
Yep.
And the thing is, not everything that he finds is junk. One of the things he finds is a rather important piece of what would later be evidence, I suppose. What he finds is a wallet that has a person's driver's license in it. So he's just playing around, and he hears some sirens, and he leaves the factory to go find out what's going on. So as it turns out, there were other people in the factory besides him, and they don't belong there either. As it turns out, there are a couple of bank robbers who were hiding because they heard a noise and they just hid. And as it turns out, the wallet that Ichiro found, that belongs to one of the bank robbers. Needless to say, they're not happy, and they want it back. And they decide they're going to have to go get it from Ichiro. So we see Ichiro having dinner with Shinpei, and after he has dinner, he has another nap and is dreaming about Monster Island again and hanging out with Minya. So they watch again as Godzilla fights Ebra and Kumonga and some jets. And yes, that is probably all from, well, at least the stuff with Ebra and the jets is probably from Ebra Horror of the Deep, also known as Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster.
Was Joe Namath there?
Not those jets. And don't do an Elton John joke either.
I was going to do a band joke, but I couldn't think of one, so I went for the Joe Namath thing. Anyway. Roll your eyes.
The problem is, while Godzilla's busy fighting the other monsters, Gabara shows up and Minya has to fight him. And it's not pretty. in fact, it's a complete and utter rout. And Minya winds up running away after getting his tail handed to him. Yeah. Almost literally. Gabara can produce electricity. I don't know how, but there's this one point where he's like holding Minya by the head and shocking him with the electricity. I'm like that sir is a dick move.
Language.
Sorry. Minya winds up running away from the fight, which does not please Godzilla at all.
No.
You know, Godzilla is one of these tough love type of parents. Or foster parents, or whatever the hell he is to Minya. I'm not entirely sure yet.
Mommy?
No, he's not his mom.
Mommy.
Stop it.
Mommy.
And so we get a humorous, Dr. Evil quotes, scene of Godzilla trying to teach Minya to fight like a proper kaiju, you know. No, this is the way you blow atomic breath. Now you do it. Smoke ring. It's not really very intimidating.
No. Or helpful.
No, not really. The thing is, Ichiro winds up being awoken again, but this time it's by the bank robbers who have found out where he lives, and they kidnap him because they want to get their wallet back, and they also figure that if they're going to get out of town, they need a hostage, and really, you know, a child is a very good hostage, really, when you think about it. Not that we're advocating doing anything illegal.
No,
obviously.
We're not.
No, I'm not. I'm saying
honestly.
I'm saying that, you know, if you're using someone as a hostage, obviously to tug at people's heartstrings, and you know, most cops wouldn't be thinking like shoot the hostage if it's a woman or a child, is what I'm saying.
Right.
And these are very bad men. So
yeah.
So they take Ichiro back to their hideout, which is now apparently the abandoned warehouse, and Ichiro's calling to Minya, trying to ask him for help and what should he do and stuff like that. And I don't know how this kid falls asleep unless it's just passing out from fear. And
narcolepsy.
That's really insensitive.
Oh, sorry.
That's really insensitive.
Sorry.
And he's back on Monster Island, and he's watching Minya get another beating from Gabara, because apparently this is a daily thing. So he teaches Minya, he tells Minya to do something that winds up tricking Gabara, and it basically he gets Gabara to stand on a specific piece of rock. Minya jumps from a cliff when he's still small. As he falls from the cliff, he starts growing, so he's obviously growing in height and weight. When he hits the other side of the rock, it winds up sending Gabara flipping through the air, ass over tea kettle.
To the moon!
And Godzilla watches this, and he's all like, hey, that was great, well done. And he actually kind of pats Minya on the back and kind of like does a little head rub thing. But the problem is that Gabara's not dead from this, and now he wants to fight somebody. And Godzilla's like, okay, you want to fight somebody? Fight me. That doesn't work out really well for Gabara, and because this is the whole point of the film, because he gets beaten as a bully, he winds up running away because he's actually fighting someone bigger than him. Whole point of the movie being, if you deal with a bully, usually sooner or later they always run into somebody bigger than them, and that's when you find out how gutless they really are.
Yep.
So Ichiro wakes up and he decides that he's going to follow the same idea that Minya did of facing what he's afraid of, these bank robbers, and be brave and fight back against them. So he winds up getting away from these guys and manages to run outside just as the police show up. The police had been called by Shinpei because he had seen these guys and thought there was something suspicious about them. And it's just as Ichiro's running outside and the guys are running after him, there's all the cops, and they're all like, freeze. So Ichiro's...
I don't think they actually did the whole freeze thing, did they?
Well, halt or whatever, stop.
Maybe in the American dub, I don't know.
Well,
They're
bank
so
robbers
polite in Japan when it comes to that stuff. I don't know if that would be... No.
Well, they're not that polite with criminals.
Okay.
And they're definitely not that polite with people that hurt little kids.
Little kids, right.
Yeah. So, the bank robbers are captured. Ichiro's a hero. His mom's all like, oh, I'm so happy you're all right. I was so worried about you and all this stuff like that. And she's beating herself up because, she had to work and all this stuff like that. So we see Ichiro the next day and he's just going to school with his friend, like it was, no big deal to get captured by a bunch of desperate criminals. And he winds up running into his version of Gabara and the kids that hang out with him. And he winds up showing Gabara that, I'm not going to be your little punching bag anymore. And when he finally knocks Gabara around a little bit, the kid starts crying, which shows that, you're not as tough as you think you are. But Ichiro, being a nice kid, doesn't lord it over him and stuff like that. He's just kind of he keeps walking along. Ichiro winds up playing a prank on a guy he's painting a billboard, and he winds up doing this little mischievous prank. Which all the other kids are like, wow, when did he grow a spine? And when did he get funny? They're all really impressed with him. And the end of the film is him, just being, he's learned how to find respect and believe in himself and stuff like that, and the film ends.
Maybe I would like this better in the dubbed version, but I really just don't care for it in the American. I mean, in the subtitled version, but the dubbed version, it's just kind of like, Because it really isn't about the monsters. It's not really a monster movie. It's a coming-of-age film about this kid. The monsters just kind of play a secondary role.
Yeah, it's very weird. I mean, I realize talking about a Godzilla movie being weird is just weird.
For its normal formula. It's very weird.
For the fact that, usually Godzilla's fighting other monsters or alien invaders or whatever. The idea that Godzilla's almost like, a secondary character in his own film, it does seem very strange. But I actually like this film simply for the message that it sends out. I mean, I like the fact that it's saying that, it's important to be able to, have a career and have a job and make money and stuff like that. But your family should always come first. And I know some people would be like, well, if you're working really hard, your family does come first. Not if your kid's all alone at night.
Yeah.
It's one thing if your kid is like...
Of course, that's our
yeah,
aesthetic.
I know. Well, it's one thing if your kid's 13 or something like that.
Right.
But at the risk of sounding like some kind of old-fashioned,
A 10-year-old like him shouldn't be left alone.
No. And not because you're worried they're going to burn the house down or something like that, but simply because a child that age, when they come home, they should have somebody there that they can say, hey, how was your day today? And have somebody say like, oh, it was good, or oh, it was terrible. And have somebody be like, well, tell me what was wrong. Let's talk about it,
Right.
Kids need that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know adults need it too, but kids need it more. And I just think that there's one scene where the mom is kind of standing there and it's after the whole thing she almost lost her child.
Yeah.
When you think about it, this could have gone horribly, horribly wrong.
Right.
And when her kid gets up the next day and he's all just, off to school, bye-bye, and he's fine. I mean, children are incredibly resilient. That's
but this kid is even, I'm sorry, fantasy resilient. Most kids would be traumatized badly by that. He didn't have any of that. I mean, that's not very realistic, is what I'm saying.
The thing is, you wonder how many kids... You wonder, sometimes, if it's something very obviously serious involving, death or something like that, obviously children get traumatized. But you have to wonder sometimes if certain situations, children get traumatized because the adults around them are freaking out so much.
Could be.
That's what gets them traumatized.
Right.
This upset mom and dad. As far as this kid was concerned, this turned into a big adventure that helped him discover who he really was. So I kind of get why he wasn't traumatized.
Yeah, but I still think that's not very realistic. Just to be honest. That's
okay.
movie realism.
All right. Oh. Like you said, it's just a movie. You should really just relax.
Tomorrow we're going to go into the 70s as Godzilla reaches his third decade of movies and get into I think one of the film that is considered the strangest of all of the original, what is it?
This is still part of the Showa series.
Showa.
This
is considered one of the weirdest movies in the Showa series, according to what I've been reading about it. I've seen this one. Yeah, it's weird and it's really funny.
Okay.
Because it's just so out there. Tomorrow, as we go back into it, we'll be tackling Godzilla vs. Hedorah, otherwise known in the States as Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. Oh man, look out. Until then, for the Big G Tokyo Town StompDown, I'm TC Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
We will see you tomorrow.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Big G Tokyo Town StompDown from Subject Cinema, Kaiju Corner at eCinemaOne.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.